It ain't about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. That statement from the man himself rings true for the entire franchise, from triumphant victories to devastating defeats. The Rocky movies have seen it all. So, when they all go toe-to-toe, which movie will come out on top? Hello ladies and gentlemen and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for today's video, we are going to be ranking all 8 Rocky movies. Seeing as how 2020 is the 35th anniversary for Rocky 4, and we don't really quite know exactly when we're getting Creed 3, this felt like an appropriate time to cover this franchise. A little bit of backstory, I adore this franchise. This is the first VHS box set I ever remember owning. You know how normal kids have like their little teddy bear or little stuffed animal that they take everywhere with them? For me, it was this box set. I took it to family's house, I took it to friends' house. It was with me everywhere. I adored it. So much so to the point that even now today, still loving this franchise, my graduating yearbook quote was, "Yo Adrian, we did it." So yeah, big Rocky fan. Despite my undying love for this franchise, I'm not ashamed to admit that it has its ups and its downs. So with that being said, let's hop right into things. Number 8, Rocky 5. Okay, let's be honest, not a single one of you is surprised by this in the slightest. Do I really have to explain why? Like, seriously, are you gonna make me do it? Alright, how about this? I'll go over the movie's premise and where things end up, and that should give you a good enough idea right there. The movie follows Rocky as he takes on an up-and-coming hotshot by the name of Tommy Gunn under his wing. I know, what an original name. Blah blah blah, Tommy ends up turning on Rocky and the movie ends in a street fight. Yup, you heard me right. If you haven't seen the movie before, it ends in a street fight, and it's about as realistic and long-winded as the boxing matches. Garbage. And Sly originally intended for this one to be the end of the franchise. I never thought I'd say this about a series that has run for so long, but good thing he kept going. 7. Rocky 2. There are actually elements of this movie that I prefer over the original. I like Apollo more here. I like how things ended up for Rocky after the end of the original, and the dramatic final fight between Rocky and Apollo is one of the most legendary bouts in cinematic history. I feel this one fleshed some things out a bit better than the original did, and at times I may even consider this one superior. Though I always found it never quite got the recognition it deserves. To put it just above the likes of Rocky 5 feels criminal. But something had to end up here, and I just enjoy the movies that are higher up more for other reasons that this movie doesn't quite possess. Still, not only a movie well worth watching, but a more than worthy sequel that truly does rival its original. 6. Rocky 3. And here it is, the first film in the franchise that went full-blown 80s cheese fest. But in doing so, it made this one undeniably memorable. Let's go through the highlight reel to show you exactly what I'm talking about. The story, first off, is glorious. Rocky's fall from grace and then triumphant return is actually really good. And though Mickey's death itself is extraordinarily mundane, you can't help but empathize with the heartbroken Rocco. The fun stuff, however, greatly overshadows this stuff. This was the first movie that actually introduced Survivor's iconic Eye of the Tiger into the franchise. And the only one that actually uses the song despite it being synonymous with the series. Hulk Hogan as Thunderlips was brilliant, Apollo and Rocky splashing in the water together is marvelous, actually the relationship they form in this movie is also well done. And finally, the cherry on top is the wildly in-your-face, over-the-top, wonderful Mr. T as the villain, Clubber Lang. I love this movie. 5. Rocky. Okay, in all honesty, I did consider putting this one a lot lower. I shuffled around this one and the previous two a lot before I finally settled. However, there's no denying the impact this had on the industry and the lives of those involved. Don't get me wrong, this movie is still absolutely superb. The underdog story of all underdog stories. But let's not kid ourselves here, it hasn't aged the best. The fights are awful. And much of the acting is extremely awkward and clunky. However, it's a heartfelt tale of persistence, resilience, and the human spirit. Rocky gets the chance of a lifetime, and along the way he meets the woman of his dreams, a trainer who's like a father, and makes a name for himself. Even though he loses the fight, spoiler alert, he earns the respect of the crowd and becomes the people's champ of sorts. just like the real-life tale of Sly writing this script all by himself, and refusing to give up the rights no matter how many dollar signs they waved in front of him unless he was the star. And then the movie went on to win Best Picture, and Sly was nominated for both Best Actor and Best Screenplay and became a household name. How's that for a people's champ? 4. Creed 2. Don't get me wrong by having this one a little lower. I still adore it. Michael B. Jordan's second round as Adonis Creed tries so hard to reach the heights of the original, but fell just ever so slightly short. This movie still has the stuff, don't you worry. It still has the heart, the grit, and most of the things you loved about the original. This one arguably feels even more personal than the original as well, as they brought back ghosts from the past in the form of the Dragos. Yes, Dolph Lundgren returned as the war-torn, disgraced Ivan Drago, who became an embarrassment to his country after his defeat to Rocky, not to mention he was the man who killed Apollo Creed. And he brings with him his absolute beast machine of a son in Florian Montaño. It really is a stellar movie, but I found it went a bit more Rocky than it did Creed, as in it was a bit more dramatic and flamboyant rather than realistic and impactful like its original. Though I do love the Rocky movies, obviously why I'm making this list, I went into this movie wanting to see Creed, and this one I feel like it went a bit backwards. Yo, Adrian! We did it! Ladies and gentlemen, we finally got that not subscribed percentage down below 80%. Finally, after all this time, after all this pushing, it has hit 79%. Thank you all so much for subscribing, but don't think this is the end. We're not going to stop there. If you are watching this video and you are enjoying it, please consider hitting that subscribe button and helping me get that percentage down even lower. I would greatly appreciate it, and it would mean so much to me and my channel. And while you're at it, don't forget to ring that little bell icon. That way you can be notified about all of my latest uploads. And now, back to the video. 3. Rocky Balboa. Okay, this movie straight up hits me in the feels every damn time. Seeing Rocky without his Adrian for the first time was utterly devastating, and still is upon each and every rewatch. Seeing his strained relationship with his son, seeing how he yearns to fight one more day but being told he can't, it truly is a beautiful movie, but as we all know, this was indeed Rocky's last time in the ring. He manages to get himself an exhibition against the current champ, and relives his glory days through getting the gang back together and hitting the gym. This movie's got heart, it really does, and that's what draws me in each and every time. Seeing one of my childhood heroes stepping back in for one more round just hits all the right spots for me. Although the villain isn't quite as strong in this as some of the other movies, it really did make a difference. This was the ending that Rocky as a fighter deserved. Number 2. Creed. The runner-up has got to be Ryan Coogler's Creed. This movie just has it, y'all. It's just got the stuff, It has the heart that you've come to expect from this franchise. It's got what is easily the best acting in the franchise. Michael B. Jordan is the star, no doubt. But to this day, I still fully believe that Sly deserved that damn Oscar. Regardless, Michael B. Jordan as Adonis Creed was the perfect choice to be the face of this franchise and carry it forward. He's a fantastic actor who always gives it everything he's got. Tessa Thompson, also fantastic in this one as well as the sequel. But this movie just feels so real, so relevant. Adonis is trying to step out of his father's shadow, craft a legacy for himself. And you, as an audience, resonate with that. This one just feels so personal. It's pure perfection. Not to mention the fights are easily the best. They feel weighty and like real heavy-duty punches are being thrown. And then, of course, in my mind, the crowning jewel is Rocky's journey through this. Now, Paulie is gone too, and when he finds out he has cancer, he's ready to quit. No treatment, he's just ready to leave. But Adonis convinces him that if he fights, Rocky's gotta fight too. And then they train together and go through treatment together, and it's just absolutely amazing. And coming in at number 1 on today's list is Rocky 4. Look, you might love me or you might hate me for this one, but it has always been my favorite, ever since I first saw it as a little kid, and it will continue to be my favorite until the end of my days. This movie is everything you've come to know and love about this franchise, all packed into one. It's like a giant, beautiful training montage backed by the best 80s soundtrack you can think of. It's got the emotion. Apollo dies early on. Rocky blames himself and travels all the way to Russia at the height of the Cold War for vengeance. Once again, Lundgren as Drago is one of cinema's finest villains. Well, not actually, but the best and most memorable in this series. And their final fight is one for the ages. The least realistic thing imaginable, don't get me wrong, but it's iconic. Not to mention, Rocky single-handedly ended the Cold War, and Paulie has a weirdly sensual robot that is just magnificent. I can't get over how much I adore this movie. I really can't emphasize that enough. This is easily one of my most rewatched movies of all time. I grew up loving it. I still love it. All of its imperfections, all of its perfections, and I am excited to see what Sly does with the director's cut, but as it currently stands, Rocky IV, to me, is the unmatched, undisputed, unrivaled champ of this franchise. So that is all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with my ranking. And feel free to let me know what you would like to see for my next ranking video. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And if you'd like to see more content, consider subscribing to my channel and ringing that little bell icon. That way you can be notified about all of my latest uploads. And as always, stay safe. Thank you so much for watching. And that's a wrap. Hey you, yeah you, if you made it this far, just know I appreciate you, and while you're here, consider hitting that subscribe button.